Hey, welcome back to another author interview at Crystal Lake. Today, our guest is Robert Bly, and we'll be discussing his book AI Apocalypse, sci-fi nonfiction that discusses, of course, AI and different AI shows and movies that we've watched over the years. So I'm going to let him uh, introduce himself. So take it away.
Hi, so my name is Bob Bly. I am an engineer, a industrial copywriter writing about technical products, and a book author. I've written a number of books, and this is my latest. And I like to write. I've written on multiple topics. I have written science fiction. I've written science fact. Uh, but this one is I've written pop culture books. With Crystal Lake, I have a previous book called The Science-Fictionary, a dictionary of science fiction, fantasy, and horror. This one is AI Apocalypse, and the description of what it is perfectly captured in the subtitle, which Joe wrote. Artificial intelligence as portrayed in and predicted by science fiction stories, novels, TV, films, comic books, and video games. And that's what it is. It's how has over the years, and it's been for over 100 years, that AI has been predicted in science fiction. How has it been predicted in major works of science fiction that deal specifically with robots and AI?
Okay, so why did you want to write a book about AI and science fiction?
Well, for two reasons. The first is I am a rabid lifelong science fiction fan. So I've already seen many of those movies and read the books. So when AI came about, I said, "Hey, this is stuff I've been reading about, writing about, viewing, watching for years." So that interested me. But the second thing is I have strong feelings about AI. You know, all those years those decades that I read those books and watched those TV shows and movies, it was just science fiction. But in the last couple of years, it's become not only science fact, it has exploded out of the gate at a pace I could never have imagined. When it came fast and came big. And I think it has some concerns for me personally and for society as a whole. And I wanted to explore those as well because I had definite feelings about it.
I think everyone has definite feelings about it these days. I have a few of those too. And as you said, it's a very hot topic at the moment. I mean, it's not just generative AI, there's robotics and self driving cars and things like that as well. So, how beneficial do you think AI is in today's society, or has it just become a problem? Do you think AI advancements are heading in the right direction?
Well, certainly there are ways in which it is beneficial. However, to answer that question, no, I don't. I do not think it's headed in the right direction. And what I tell people, I have a lot of people who approach me. They know who I am, and I get at least 2 or 3 emails a day. What do you think about AI? And my stock answer is, AI is going to be the end of Western civilization as we know it. I think overall it is a bad thing, and there's two reasons for that. The reason everybody cites, which I think is the lesser reason, is its capability of hurting people or destroying human life. And there are serious computer scientists. Gregory Hinton, who's known as the godfather of AI, says he thinks there's within 30 years a 10 to 20% chance it'll in some way wipe us out, which it could do easily in many different ways, controlling the water supply, controlling electricity, controlling weapons. My concern is the other one, which is you read statistics that say, depending on what source you look at, AI is going to make 10 to 90% of us, and I think immediately it'll be 10 to 20 or to 30% of us virtually unemployable. We will lose our jobs. And that is the worst part of it because people, when people lose their jobs, they lose all hope. They can't live. And the alternative is proposed, a universal income, is bad in for a couple of reasons I could go into, but this is not a good thing to lose your job to a machine.
No, it's not. I mean, I know a few freelancers who've already lost their jobs to
Me too. Me too.
yeah. So, um, but do you think that this AI, the current generative AI, is riding on a bubble that will burst, or do you think that the companies are going to double down on it?
They're going to double down. It's not better. It's only more powerful. It's only more capable of doing the things, the bad things that we just talked about. So it's no comfort to me.
Okay, so do you think that the facts and the reality, things like you've been talking about,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
have been drowned out by the hype and are shaped by the sci-fi presentation of what we think of as AI? Do you
On.
think?
Go
Do you
ahead.
think? Do you think that it's realistic to think that the AI is the next big thing?
It not. I don't think it's the next big thing. You said it a minute ago. It is the next big thing. It is the 800-pound gorilla in the world of human endeavor and humanity. It is the genie. What I say, it came out so fast. The genie is out of the bottle, and it can never be put back. It's any chance of quelling it or quenching it is gone. And I don't think science fiction distorts it. Rather, science fiction has a mixed record, as you know, in predicting things. Some things it's good at, some things it's missed. For example, science fiction missed microcomputers. There were stories written in the old days where, the computers, like Isaac Asimov wrote a story where missiles were controlled by computer, but it was so expensive because you had to put a mainframe computer in each missile. So we missed microcomputers. But in terms of AI, I think it has been right on target. Most of the things, I mean, I watched a movie just a few years ago. It was Logan, the X-Men movie, and they were having trouble crossing the road because of the AI 18-wheeler trucks. We have that now. We have self-driving vehicles. And I think it's all the things, or not all, but most of the things that have been predicted have been, as they say, spot on or right on target. So I don't think it's hyped at all. I think it's prescient.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that. Do you think that more government regulation or rules will help, or do you think that it's just not gonna the companies are just gonna ignore them?
Here's the thing. Um, in the book, I have in the first section, I have a long essay about the AI before going into the science fiction of it, and I discuss the government rules and can they help? They're helpless. They're not going to be able to help. Part of the reason is, again, once the genie's out of the bottle, you can't put it back. But the other one is that you hear this argument all the time. Well, if we in the United States try to pull back, China is not going to do that, and they'll take us over. And that fear will keep AI rolling out at its rapid pace. And plus, there's a huge faction of, well, I wouldn't say huge faction, there's a faction of very wealthy people who are the ones who stand to profit from AI, while a lot of us are going to be hurt financially, who have the resources and are pushing it pedal to the metal, as they say. So it's not going to slow down, and it's not going to be regulated down.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely think that the billionaires are pushing the AI because they want to make the money off it, definitely. So, of course, you had to research for film and TV aspects of the book, but what sort of scientific research did you do for the book?
Well, my background is engineering, so I read a lot of science. I also write science books. So I kept up with three sources. One, general media. There's stuff every day. So I amassed a huge clipping file. I'm still old-fashioned that I actually clip stuff out of magazines and newspapers. I read several journals that concentrate on AI. My favorite is the MIT Technology Review, but there are many others. And I also read, there's a lot of books that are solid information, not science fiction, but science on AI. My favorite is by Karen Howe, H-A-O, Empire of AI, which is an expose of Sam Altman and OpenAI, and really lays out all the arguments and the technology. So that's the research I did.
Yes, I could say many things on Sam Altman and his OpenAI and his stealing of copyrighted material, but I shall not today.
No, I think you should. I mean, I was involved in, I mean, you may have too if you write books. A lot of us authors got named in an Anthropic lawsuit, and they tell us we're going to get a little money, but that to me isn't the worst thing. I wasn't actually that offended by them training AI on my books, because people who are human writers, they also read other people's books. That was the least bothersome thing to me. What's bothersome is I saw an ad, for example, an online ad where this woman's offering a course, how to write your novel in 1 week completely using AI. And I'm thinking, if I need AI to write my novel, what is the point of me writing a novel? So that's the kind of thing that bothers me much more.
Yeah, well, I would argue that if AI is writing the novel, it's not your novel.
Absolutely.
It's AI's novel.
Yeah,
And
you're right.
It's the novel of all the writers that the AI has stolen from. But
I
it's not
agree
the
with you.
person
And
writing the
you
prompt.
see that certain publishing industry things are fighting back. There are some publishers that put on their book, not written by AI. I read recently that, I want to make sure I get this correct, that some of the science fiction, like the Nebula Award in science fiction, that you can't submit a story that was written by AI. And I think that's a good thing. But yeah, that's minor pushback. But legally, I don't think anybody's stopping the development of AI. We're
No,
going to be able to.
because they've drunk the Kool-Aid, as it were, and with the AI, and they think it's the next. They want to use it to save money and fire people from their jobs.
Yeah, and that's nothing new. I mean, it is only a form of software automation. Before AI, humans were for decades, even for centuries, put out of work by electronic and mechanical automation. There's a famous story. Thomas Edison had a big facility in Menlo Park, New Jersey. I live in New Jersey. And in one of his facilities, he had people making a certain product, and he had 10 operators on 10 machines, and they wanted to form a union. And he got so angry. Over the next month, he developed ways to automate the machines. And one day they all came in, and they had pink slips. And he famously said to the newspapers, the union came into my shop, and now the union is out. Automation puts people out of work, always has. And people tell me, well, that's just progress. Is it really progress? If I have time for another story, I had a guy tell me, I've been reading your anti-AI articles, Bob, but I run a small company. We do options trading, and I had 20 traders on my floor. I now put AI to work, and now I can do the same business with 5. Isn't that great? And I said to him, that's great for you, maybe. What about the 15 traders that don't have a job anymore? Is it great for them? That's my whole problem with AI. People getting made obsolete or unemployable.
Yeah, and it also it trickles back around into the economy too, because the less people that are employed, the less money they have to spend, the less then you start going into recessions and all sorts of things, and they don't think long term with a lot of this. Is what I've been seeing, like the long term effects.
The way I put it to people also, if AI takes all our jobs, who's going to have the money to buy the products made by AI?
Yeah, it's like they don't have long term thinking in a lot of these companies. I've noticed that, which is strange to me, but
they just want to get as rich as possible, as quick as possible.
Yeah. So, in your research, you touched a little bit on this, but have you found any fictional sci-fi, or AI or robotics that have now become a reality in some form?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, going back to the Logan X-Men movie, robotic trucks, self-driving cars, which scares me. And if you look at, Elon Musk's, what's his name, is Optimus, I think is his robot. It looks very similar to the robot in the movie I, Robot. Very similar. And the fact that AI used to be restricted to software and computers, but now it's going into physical machines that can do, some of them look like people, some of them don't. But so, a lot of this stuff comes true, again, and also in that movie, I, Robot, there's a scene where Will Smith is almost killed because a machine is demolishing a house. And I once wrote in an article, well, you're safe if you're a mechanic or a plumber because AI can't put on a roof. And some guy wrote me, I'm in the roofing business. We're using AI machine-driven machines to put roofs on a house so people don't have to go up and do it themselves. So I think it has not yet been fully imagined or realized what AI can do, but it's much more than we think. And it's not just ChatGPT writing.
Yeah, I mean, I see articles and things online too that's like, oh wow, didn't know they were doing that. And so yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there that they're developing that doesn't make the news and people don't know about. So yeah, it's kind of scary sometimes.
To me, it's very scary. And the argument in favor of AI, people tell me, Bob, even if AI does what you do, for example, I'm a writer, and specifically I'm a copywriter, and that field is being harmed, I think, by AI. Well, some people say it's good for it. They say, Bob, you can always pivot to something else. Well, guess what? I'm 68 years old. I've been doing the same thing for almost half a century. I'm not so pivotable anymore. It might be easier if I was 20 or 30, but not everybody can pivot. Some people don't have other talents. The only thing I've ever been able to do is write and give talks, seminars. Some people have, like I had a friend who does what I do. He's a copywriter, but he's also a woodworker. So I suppose he could go back to that. Although I can imagine there's already machines on an assembly line making his furniture designs by automatic lathes and drills or whatever. So I don't think anybody's really safe.
No, they're not, I don't think. So what were some of your favorite AI sci-fi or TV shows or other material that you included in the book?
Well, I have a lot. I like a lot of them, and uh, my favorite, I think, the best one about the dangers of AI. I don't know if you've ever seen it. Is Colossus: The Forbin Project.
No, I haven't seen that one. I've heard about it though.
Go if you can on YouTube and watch the trailer. You can see. I mean, it almost word for word showed exactly how AI would think and take over the world. Um, for movies, I made a short list. Colossus, of course, the Forbin Project. The Matrix is very scary. The Terminator is very believable. We have robots that walk around now. 2001: A Space Odyssey. Hal murders the astronauts. And there's a very charming AI that's a nice one, that's not scary. I don't know if you've seen it. Brian and Charles, one I would recommend to you, which is very sweet. But it shows the danger. In terms of TV shows, I made another list that's sort of an odd collection. Battlestar Galactica with the Cylons, who were evil. Star Trek Next Generation, Data was a good guy. Knight Rider with Kit the talking car. Futurama, Bender the robot was very cute. Get Smart, also very friendly. Jaime the robot, I don't know if you remember that, played by Dick Gautier. And then there was a sad one. There was a Twilight Zone called Whipple's Department Store, where Richard Deacon, who was on the Dick Van Dyke Show, who played, I think, Mel, he owns his factory and he replaces his machines and his crew with a computer that can do all their work. And he thinks it's so great. But at the end, of course, he's also replaced and he's in a bar drinking himself to blindness because he's depressed. And then the last scene is that shows his office, and behind his desk is the robot. It's Robbie the robot from Forbidden Planet. And it's those are some of the classics. There's many others.
Yeah, there are. The AIs of robots are pretty much in a lot of sci-fi stuff, and they're very scary. And some have some nicer portrayals of them. So how long have you been writing?
I have been writing, not professionally, but I've been writing science fiction since age 12. That's when I did my first stories. And I'm 68 now, so it's over half a century. I became a professional. And I in my teens I wrote some science fiction stories, and I did have them published in a few pulp magazines. And then I became a professional writer, first corporate and then freelance, in the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s, and I've been doing it ever since. And I've written lots of books on different topics. As I say, science fiction, science. For example, I don't know if you know who Charles Proteus Steinmetz is, but everybody credits Tesla and Edison for inventing the U.S. electric grid. It wasn't. It was Charles Steinmetz. And I always felt he never got enough credit, so I wrote a biography of him.
Yeah, well, I don't give Edison any credit for inventing the electric anything. So
yeah, in fact, his system didn't work. He was going to make the grid out of DC, direct current, and Steinmetz and Tesla and others discovered that AC was the one you had to do because it could travel distances and DC couldn't.
Yeah, I mean, Edison, I don't consider Edison much of an inventor, period. He was more of an engineer, I think, who took other people's ideas and improved them, and stole their patents.
Well, stole their patents, that's bad. Proving ideas, I don't have a problem with.
Yeah. Well, he didn't steal. He did steal a few patents, or just sort of took ideas that weren't patented, and claimed them as his. There's a lot of things about Edison that's very iffy.
Yeah, I mean, the iffiest thing is he was trying to. I don't know if you know this. He was trying to prove to the public that DC current was okay, and what he ended up doing is he hooked up dogs to show it wouldn't hurt them, and it electrocuted them, and he used it to electrocute a circus elephant. So not the nicest guy in the world.
No, not at all. So who are some of your writing influences?
I have many, but I'd say a lot of them are science fiction. I mean, I love reading science fiction, love reading horror, fantasy, and mainstream fiction. But in science fiction, probably at the top of the list is Isaac Asimov, who was, the formulator of the 3 laws of robotics, which is definitely related to AI and the positronic brain. I liked Roger Zelazny, who wrote a great AI story called Home is the Hangman, about an AI that you think rebels against its creator, but doesn't. And I like Alfred Bester, Robert Silverberg. Those are some of my favorites. Arthur C. Clarke is very good too. He wrote a story called Dial F for Frankenstein, this is an idea that has come out later, but he was, I think, one of the first to do it. He said, you don't need a central brain. If you have a lot of distributed intelligence, it can form an AI. And in his story, it was the telephone company. They had all these millions of switches that networked together, and it became intelligent. The telephone network.
Sort of like a proto-Borg society.
Very similar to a Borg society.
So what do you enjoy most about writing nonfiction, especially sci-fi based nonfiction?
I like two things. I like the writing about the ideas. The fictional ideas. When I write a chapter for this book, I'm reliving them and I think the reader is too, in a nostalgic way. Here's what happened in this book by Emo Binder or Robert Silverberg, and it's nice to reminisce and recall the story or hear a new story. But I also like explaining the science. That's what Isaac Asimov, as I said, is one of my favorites. And his thing was he loved to explain, and I love to explain too. I like to take complex scientific ideas, like the invention of the electric power grid by Steinmetz, and explain them in pure, simple language. That's a pleasurable thing for me.
Yeah, it's pleasurable to read too. I have a copy of your science fictionary. So
yeah, I mean, that was an example. The science fictionary. I love taking the science parts of these fictions, and you'll notice in several entries I explain exactly how the technology worked, even if it was fictional, and that's a lot of fun to me.
Yeah, yeah, I like that part.
The
So, what's the hardest part of writing nonfiction for you?
hardest part of writing nonfiction uh, is, well, if I had to say one, it's that, and this is almost the hardest part of any nonfiction, it becomes dated. You think you've developed something. You write about something. Isaac Asimov had this problem all the time. Like he wrote a book on the genetic code that was published, and like the next week DNA was discovered. Book obsolete. I've had that with some. I wrote some of the early books on personal computers for Dell Publishing and others. And the last one I did is a publisher said, "I want you to write a book on how to use the K Pro 2." And as I was working on the book, the IBM PC came out, and no one wanted the K Pro 2. So the stuff you do becomes dated. And the other thing is that's difficult is there are topics that stretch my limited IQ and neuron network that are sometimes really difficult. But I can also enjoy that because I can dig into them to a point where I can understand them. And I took a trick that I forget who I learned this from. If you're dealing with a complex technical subject, go get a children's book on it for starters, and that'll give you the basic understanding, and you can build it from that. So if I was writing on, I used to write a lot on telecommunications. I would get a couple of children's books, and I'd get a dictionary of the technology, and between those two, I could start to figure it out.
That's a good idea. I never thought of doing something like that. Yeah, that's a cool trick. So tell us about some of the other books you've written.
Well, I've written, again, a lot of books. This is this book, AI Apocalypse, is my 110th book. So, I'm a writing addict, and I've written them on a lot of stuff. I've done books on popular culture, science, science fiction, computers, technology, and a wide variety of things. For example, I love Stephen King. So I wrote a book for Kensington Publishing called The Ultimate Unauthorized Stephen King Quiz Book. I like trivia. So that's another one I did. And I wrote a book years ago. It was one of my early books on, my first job was I was a technical writer for Westinghouse. And I wrote a book called, and I realized when I tried to do that writing, there was no guidebooks that showed you how to do certain things. How do you write numbers and units and measurements and equations and things like that. So I said, I'm going to write one. And I wrote a book called The Elements of Technical Writing, which was published under the first title was Technical Writing Structure, Standards, and Style. That was the first edition by McGraw-Hill. And that was published in 1982. And was my first, and it's still in print today.
Well, you definitely have a wide variety of books to
I
choose
do.
from. Okay, I think you are the uh, author with the most books written that I've interviewed. So, what's your next project? What can readers expect from you in the future?
Well, I'm writing a book that's related to that narrows in something you would care about and I care about, AI as it affects writers and writing. Now, my writing specialty is copywriting. So my next book is tentatively my life, because I've been in copywriting for decades, my life in copywriting from Madison Avenue to AI and beyond, because AI has revolutionized copywriting, content writing, to me in some very bad ways. And I want to explore that because, as I say, I get asked several times a day, Bob, I'm thinking, I read your copywriter's handbook, or I know who you are. I'm thinking of getting into copywriting or content writing. Should I? Is it a bad idea? And I can't answer them in a short email. So I'm writing a book to answer them.
Yeah, because I think especially the copywriting field, I think is changing almost on a daily basis these days.
Really is.
Yeah, it's just like it's crazy out there these days. Anyway, I think we'll wrap the interview up here. I'd like to thank you for
Thank you. It was
being.
my pleasure.
Yeah, it was a great chat, and that's it for this episode, everyone. And bye for now.
Okay, bye-bye. Nice.